Welcome to the Seeker's Hollow. I'm Brian, and welcome back to Dolmenwood. This is going to be episode 8 of our series, The Hunters of the Aldweald. Last time we left off, we just traveled down the road from Prigwort, making our way over to Rycroft by way of Castle Brackenwold. We stopped over in 1307. That's where we needed to rest for the day based on our travel time and how far we could travel, which we're traveling at a pretty slow rate because we're somewhat encumbered right now. And we've come to this structure here, which is something of an old monastery, and we've been checking that out. Now, before we go in and resolve what we're going to do in the monastery, one thing that did happen as I was looking over things off camera is that we leveled up. We have enough experience to level up our fighter and our hunter. So Loblo and Samwise are going to level up. I went ahead and did some of the small details just to kind of move that along, but I wanted to level them up right now at the beginning before I forget anything. And one thing with Seven, she leveled up in the last episode, and I forgot that she also earns a chance to roll on the rune granted table here. And there is a chance that you will not get a rune, but if you do roll high enough, then you can get a rune, and there's even a chance that you can get a mighty rune. And there's kind of a cool thing going on with this where you could actually create a quest where you could get runes, and the character might have to make a quest into fairy and do something for or with the person that would teach them that rune. And I think for mighty runes, I think it makes sense to do a quest for that. It's kind of a cool thing to do. I don't think we're actually going to roll a mighty rune because you have to get a natural 12 to roll that, or well, you have to at least get. No, you can get it on a modified roll as well, but we're not going to be having a modified roll for this because you have to get to a higher level to get a modified roll. So at level 2, you just get a plain roll with no bonus. So anyway, there is of course the chance that we could get a greater rune, and maybe for the purposes of this playthrough, I wouldn't make a quest for a lesser or a greater rune, but I think for a mighty rune, it would be like kind of be worth it to have a quest for that, considering how powerful they are. But anyway, let's roll for that and take care of that little detail that I missed for 7 Steps at Dawn for her level up. So we have got an 8, and that's actually going to get us 1 greater rune, so that's a very nice roll there. And so we will need to roll on this table, which is going to be a d6. And we have rolled 4, which is Ice Storm. And that sounds like something like an offensive type of thing, and it sounds pretty powerful, I think. So here we have Ice Storm. It's an instant effect, and the range is 120 feet, which is pretty good range. And this is a violent maelstrom of hail and sleet descends on a 30-foot diameter area, so that's a pretty large area. All within the storm suffer 3d8 damage, pretty high damage. There's also an icy surface. The surface of the ground where the storm hits remains icy for 1 turn. Creatures walking through the area must move at half their normal speed in order to avoid slipping. Wow. So a hail of ice that does 3d8 damage that also lays down an icy field over a 30-foot area with 120-foot range. That's very strong. To me, that sounds like the equivalent of maybe a 3rd level arcane spell. So that's quite incredible to get that right now, being that she's only level 2. So I'm going to write in that she has a greater rune, which is the Ice Storm. Okay, and I think also when you're at a lower level, you do not get to use these runes very much. I think there's a limit on maybe only using them once in a while. So a greater rune at level 1 to 4 can only be used once per level. So This is not, the ice storm is not something that she's going to be doing every single day. But when you get to a higher level, you could use it once per week. So, all right, that's very cool. We got that taken care of with 7, and now let's go on and level up Low Blow. And I already took care of his experience. I wrote in his experience there, made sure I got the 5% modifier in there as well for all of his experience. And of course, he's level 2. And I do need to write in how much experience his next level will be. So let's go and look at the Hunter and update any stat changes there. So his next level would be at 4,500. So we'll write that in. Okay, we've got that in there. And then I do not think there's any change to his saving throws. No, all of his saving throws are going to stay the same. And then his survival will actually go down to a 4, which is very, very useful. That's going to help us a lot with foraging and, just all the things that we are doing with survival rolls, fishing. So I've updated the survival to 4. And I think that was about everything that he had. His lock singing ability, that has to be upgraded at level 3, so he doesn't get anything else there. But I do need to roll for his hit points, so he's going to get a D8 roll here, and we're really hoping for something good, at least about a 4 or so, and that's a 2, so not so great. We've really had that's kind of been a consistent thing, is that we've had some fairly bad luck with hit point rolls, but that's okay. There's always the next level. So he's up to 6 though, which is still, that gives him a little bit more survivability. All right, so that takes care of Low Blow. And then now with Samwise, we also need to roll his hit points as well. And I've already looked over his different things as well, and you can choose a combat talent. You can either roll or choose, and I've chosen weapon specialization for the longsword, so he's going to get +1 attack and +1 damage to his longsword, which is really good because he's already got +4 naturally. So now, as long as he's using that sword, he's going to get +5, and then he's going to get +4 again as long as he's using that sword. Now, if he was to switch to a different weapon like a mace, then he would not get this bonus. So this makes him a specialist of the longsword, and yeah, he's got some very good attack bonuses given his strength and everything else as a fighter. And there was no change to his saving throws, and I don't think anything with the skill targets either. But we do need to roll for his hit points, and let's hope we finally get something good. Oh, 7. All right. Now that's excellent. So that's going to put us up to 11 hit points. And yeah, finally we got a good roll on the hit points. And of course, for Samwise, being that he's kind of our tank, that is, well, he definitely is our tank. He's really the only really tanky guy that we have. So that's very good to get for him. So, all right, things are going pretty well there. And I think that's going to take care of everything that we need to level up. So let's take a look at what we got going on here in the Refuge of St. Key. And we came across the Wayside Monastery, and it says that this is the only active monastery remaining within Dolmenwood's bounds. The refuge is a popular stop along the way between Castle Brackenwold and Prigwort, serving as an inn for those travelers who can stomach a little religion with their evening repast. And the refuge was originally established as a monastery and restaurant for pilgrims on the way to the Abbey of St. Cloud. And that pilgrimage route is no longer in active use as the abbey is ruined. Yeah, they call it the ruined Abbey of St. Cloud now. So the services, again, we do have lodging and food here of common quality. So I think we're definitely going to take advantage of that. And it looks like Abbot Winston Spatulard is the kind of the proprietor of the place. And if we take a look around the common room, We walk in there, and what do we see? We see a wide tap room and refectory. It's filled with wooden benches and trestle tables. And of an evening, the place is teeming with travelers stopping here for the night. So we've got other travelers as well, just like we are doing. Some on their way to Prigwort, some on their way down to Castle Brackenwold. And we see some huge casks of ale line one wall where a team of monks catch the seemingly endless flow of stone tankards. And above the cask wall hangs an oaken image, twice life-size, of St. Key the Chronicler bearing his tome and quill and looking down across the guests with a beneficent but somewhat reprimanding gaze. So they also have an evening mass every evening at 6, which is held by Abbot Spatulard in the refectory, blessing travelers on their way and reading an extract from the vast chronicles of their patron saint. And the supper is then served from the monastery kitchen. And a door in the common room permits entry to the chapel of St. Key. Now, if we were to go to the chapel, there are some things that we could do there as well, which I think, I don't think any of our characters are particularly disposed to go there normally, but that, of course, could change depending on how things go in the future. However, we do have Wagered Vague traveling with us, and he is working on behalf of the Plurtine Church, so maybe Wagered Vague is going to go visit the chapel. That seems possible, but that's going to be up for him to decide what he wants to do. And they also have some ale, and that's 1 silver per pint. That's Key's Balm, and I would say that Loblo is certainly going to get some of that. So we're going to get a room as well, which is 2 silver per night, and it doesn't say if that is per person. I guess it would make sense that it's per person. So we'll get 2 rooms. So we're gonna pay 4 silver plus 1 silver for the pint. So we're gonna be spending 5 silver here for our stay. So I think we'll just take 5 silver off of someone's stash here. Let's see if anybody has 5 silver in their bag already. So everybody's got 4 silver in the bag, so we'll just take those 4 out, and then we'll take 1 more from there. And Loblo is going to get to have that ale, and let's see what this ale is all about. Okay, so here we have the Key's Balm, and it's just a common ale. And let's see what it says about it, if we have something about it. Yeah. So this is a golden ale that tastes of honey and hops, and it causes good-natured slumping. So that sounds like a nice way to spend the evening. So Loblo will enjoy some of that. And I think we're also going to need... No, I think, okay, yeah, so I was looking at the food, but they only have 1 type of food, I think, which is just the, so I guess they have the full menu of common food available. So let's roll for the common food and see what we get. So we're going to roll for 2 on the common food and 1 on the side dish. So we're going to have 6, which is the shanky, and then 2, which is the onion sandwich. I think we haven't had the onion sandwich before. That's white bread, butter, raw onion slices, and lashings of congealed whey. That sounds a little bit strange. And then for the side dish, I'm going to roll a d4 for that. And that's going to be the Hamath Sprats. I think we've had that one before. Little fish, crispy fried in batter. Not too different from what I had for dinner today. All right, so the party has been, they've been fed, and Loblo, of course, has enjoyed his beer. And I do want to write that down too, that he got to have the keys bombed because he is trying to sample every beer and ale in the land. All right, so we are not camping, so I don't think we need to roll for a nighttime encounter, so we're okay on that end. And we're just going to pass the night. I think everyone has full hit points, so we don't need to worry about any kind of healing or anything like that. So we've passed the night, and we're going to go into the next day, which is going to be day 4 of week 2. And let's see what's going on the calendar for this day. I've also updated our hex map here, showing what hexes that we visited. That's just so I don't lose track of the ones that we've actually got experience for. And so, oh yeah, and it looks like I've been doing the numbers wrong here on the calendar. So we don't start with 1 again. Obviously we start with 8, so we've got 8, 9, 10, 11. So let me update that. Okay, there we go. So we're on day 11. And what is the name of this day again? So day 11 is called Moot. Have to kind of memorize these names here. And we don't have any special events or anything going on. And so we're just going to roll for weather here. And we got a 6. 6 is going to be clement and cheery. So we've got good weather, nothing to worry about there. Let's write in the hex that we're in. So we're in hex 1307. And I think we're in a different terrain here. This is actually going to be, this is an open forest here. We are still in the Aldweald region though. So we've got open forest, and there are some different encounter rates and things like that in the open forest. All right, now we look at where we're going to travel for the day. Take a look at the road travel. That's a great one for figuring out your distances. So if we start here and go down to Castle Brackenwold, that's going to be 12.5 miles. And we are traveling at a reduced rate. I think are we traveling at 20 or 30? Have to verify that here. All right, so we're traveling at 30. And one thing that I thought about actually, no, I think we are traveling at 20 because we have more rations, do we not? Yeah, we're traveling at 20 because we have more rations, because everyone has 3 rations. So at 20, it's going to be, it might be tough to get to Castle Brackenwold in this one segment. We'll have to see here. So it would take us 6 hours to go 6 miles. So we're talking about 12 hours to go the full distance. And it's actually 12.5 miles. So we'd be looking at 13 hours to go the full distance. So I don't think that's going to happen. What we're going to do is go into hex 1407, and we'll probably camp in the middle there. So we'll travel like 6.5 miles, and so that's going to take us 6 hours and 30 minutes. 6 hours and 30 minutes to go 6.5 miles. And so if we leave at 8, that's going to put us at 2:30, and then we're going to just set up camp. Probably, I don't think we'll do anything else. Maybe we can look around that hex a little bit. So let's look at hex 1407 and see what we've got going on in there. There might be something at least worth checking out as we travel in there. So we are now at the Henchgate, and this kind of terrain is meadow. So we've never been in Meadow before, and this is also in the Tidelands, and there's a 1 in 6 chance of lost or encounter. Now, of course, we're on the road, so we don't need to roll for loss. We would have a 1 in 6 chance of encounter. So let's roll that and see what we get there. Oop. And we got a 2, okay, so we will have an encounter there. We'll resolve that in a moment. Let's look at what we got going on in the hex. So the edge of the wood, the flat plains and farmlands that surround Castle Brackenwold, visible upon a hill to the southeast, give way to the great forest of Dolmenwood. And the Horseye Road is a major trade road in and out of the woods, and it follows the edge of the forest before plunging into its depth at the very northwest corner of the hex. Okay, yeah, we know that. We came from that direction. At this point where the road enters the forest, a curious landmark, a natural gateway known as the Henchgate, stands astride the road. So we can see the Henchgate. Okay, so we've already passed through the Henchgate because we are kind of about a little bit more than halfway in. So as we came out of the forest, we went through the Henchgate, and it says that the gate is formed of the living trunks and branches of dozens of trees woven and melded together to create a long natural arched tunnel about 30 feet high, wide, and long. And above the road, it is here that many newcomers to Dolmenwood are granted their first taste of the queer atmosphere that haunts the place. So that, I'm guessing, is going to be the Henchgate right here. So pretty cool looking entrance or gate as you go into the Dolmenwood. And the lower portions of the trees that form the gate have been carved over centuries with names, initials, and love declarations of hundreds of passers-by. So they've carved graffiti into a lot of the trees. And then above the scroll, a profusion of quizzical wooden faces peer down at travelers. So we've got faces in the trees as well. So there's certainly a very mysterious and magical and possibly a little bit creepy vibe about coming into the Dolmenwood. And greetings, it is common for the faces of the Henchgate to speak, addressing travelers with their own names in the common woldish tongue and wishing them well between the eaves of the forest. They are willing to make pleasant small talk about the weather and such, but merely smile quizzically if asked any questions. Okay, well, at least it seems like the trees are pretty friendly. Maybe they said goodbye to us because we were obviously living down to the south. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have actually for that hex. So I think with that in mind, we're going to get 500 experience for entering that hex, and we're going to get 500 for exploring everything, because there's really nothing else in the book for that hex, as you can see. So I will note that down and add that up at the end of the session. And then I'll note down that we have fully explored that hex. So that's kind of the first fully explored hex that we have so far. All right, so now we did get an encounter, so we do need to resolve that. And this terrain is meadow, so that's going to be a little bit different type of encounter in the meadow. All right, so we're rolling a d8 for our encounter type, and we've got a 5, which is going to be sentient. We are along the road in the daytime, so 5 will be sentient, and we're going to roll on the sentient table, d20, which is the first time that I think that we have rolled on this table, and we've come up with a 5, which is going to be an elf. And looks like maybe 2 kinds of elves here. We got CT and KN. Not entirely sure what that is, but we're going to have 1d4 of those. So let's see how many we've got. We've got 2. So let's take a look at what those elves are on page 37. Okay, so there's an elf courtier and an elf knight. I think that's what it means. And I guess we've got 1 courtier and 1 knight because we have 2. And luckily we do have an elf with us in our party, so hopefully that might help a little bit for things to go better for us here. So let's take a look at the elf courtier. And this is a highborn member of a fairy court sent by their liege into the mortal world on missions of discovery, diplomacy, debauchery, and other inscrutable quests. So this is a medium fairy, a genius, and they could be any alignment. So they're pretty formidable here. And then the elf knight. This is a haughty elf warrior in the service of a fairy noble. Lithe of frame, exquisitely preened, and heavily armed, they roam the mortal world on quests of daring do or romance. And it's a medium fairy and a sentient being as well, and they could be of any alignment as well. All right, so we do need to find out who they're in the service of, because that will give us some critical information about what we're actually dealing with here. So let's roll a d10 on the service table here to see who these elves serve. And that is a 3, which is going to be the Duke who cherishes dreams. So I guess we'll say that they both serve the same one, which is why they're traveling together. So they're serving the Duke who cherishes dreams. And there's also a 3 in 6 chance of riding a fairy horse. So we'll say like 4 to 6, they're on a fairy horse. Okay, they're not on a fairy horse. And then I think for the knight, there's also a chance, because they are usually mounted. So we'll roll for what kind of mount the knight has. And the knight does have a fairy horse. Okay, so the knight is mounted, but the courtier is not. And we can roll for some traits. So let's look at the traits of the courtier. 6, extravagantly lush hair. 8 feet long, drifts behind. Okay. And then for the knight, amber or violet eyes without pupils. Now, I think we could roll for an encounter here using these preset encounters. We haven't done that yet, so that might be kind of a fun way to go. Reading through some of these, I think that some of them may not quite fit happening like right on the road or something like that. So I guess we could just roll and see what we get. Maybe if the one that we get here doesn't fit, we could look at the encounter that the knight has and see if that fits better. So, oh wait, we're gonna need to roll a d4. So that's a 1, and it says that the courtier would be reclining on upholstered dining chairs in a tangled glade, languidly feasting at a table laden with glimmering provender. That sounds fairly likely, although it'd have to be a fairly small glade because we are actually more in a meadow land here. If you look at the number 1 encounter for the knight, it says, gazing at a fallen leaf, composing an ode to the wondrous and tragic beauty of mortality. All right, well, maybe that makes a little more sense, but I think we could kind of combine both. Maybe the courtier is reclining and relaxing, and the knight is composing the ode to the tragedy of mortality. So they're relatively calm and composed, and I don't think they're looking for a fight of any sort. So yeah, that would explain what they're doing. I do think that we could do a reaction roll just to be sure here. But I think given the fact that they're right on the road and engaged in this stuff, and also the fact that we do have an elf with us, although she doesn't have any, 7, we don't have any affiliation for her, so there could be possible rivalry going on depending on what affiliation she had. But the big one is really kind of the Frost Knights, or the Frost Elves. The Frost Elves are really the ones that are have a lot of potential problems going on with them, but luckily they're not Frost Elves. So I think for the encounter roll, we'll probably just give like maybe like a +2 to the encounter roll, and then see how it goes from there. So let's roll for the encounter roll with a +2. So that's going to be 10 there. And it says that they're indifferent and they may negotiate. Okay. So maybe we have 7 can maybe attempt to parlay with them, being that she is also an elf and she has the highest charisma. So if I think we'll just have her do a quick charisma ability check here, and if she passes that, then we'll say that they would be willing to discuss some matters with us. So let's see what we get there. So we got a 1, and then with our bonus, that is a 2. So we're not going to hit the target of 4. So it looks like they're relatively indifferent to us, and they're quite content to. They're quite content to do what they're doing, and they're not really interested in us. And I'm sure there's many travelers going along the road, so there's nothing that particularly stands out about us other than that maybe we have an elf with us. But yeah, so they're just going to enjoy their afternoon as we pass by. Okay, so now we will go ahead and set up camp for the day, as there's really nothing else to explore in the Henchgate or in the the Henchgate hex, even though we're already past the gate itself. But so let's roll for camping. We're going to see how much firewood we've got. We're going to get 6 hours of firewood, which will be fine. And then we're going to roll for the cooking and camaraderie. And we got 3 on the camaraderie, which with the bonus, that's going to be a 4. So that's a successful roll there. But we did get a 1 on the cooking, which means that we do need to make a save versus Doom here for Samwise, since he is kind of our designated cook. So let's see if he can pass this. It's got to roll a 12 or better, and he got a 14. All right, so he will pass, and we're not going to destroy a ration, but he once again did not make anything very tasty that anyone enjoyed. So we will get 50 experience for the camaraderie. So we're going to go ahead and write that down. And now we can go into the nighttime, and we are going to have a nighttime check for an encounter, which is going to be just a 1 and 6. So we got a 3, so there's not going to be an encounter. And then everyone is going to use 1 ration, which it looks like I didn't write down that 3rd ration that everybody got, which is also why we had to travel at a speed of 20. So we'll just not write in that ration. And so now we would be back to a speed of 30 for the next day. So let's start the next day, which is going to be day 12. And this is going to be Frisk. I guess Friday is Frisk, and we're going to roll for weather. And that's going to be a 7, which will be warm and sunny. Okay, so we are in the Tidelands region now. And now we can travel on to Castle Brackenwold, which is just going to be 6 miles. So we start our travel at 8. We'll be there within 4 hours at a speed of 30. So we're going to get there at noon at Castle Brackenwold, which is going to be hex 1508. And we are going to get another 500 experience for entering the hex of 1508. All right, so the party is entering into the immense castle of Brackenwold, and we can see the map here. And we've got several pretty strong high walls, and we've got some very strong gates, and then we've got plenty of other buildings and houses and things all around. So it's quite a big, expansive place. And let's see what it says here in the campaign book about Castle Brackenwold. So we're going to enter the fortified castle and keep of the Dukes of Brackenwold, watch over the southern eaves of Dolmenwood from atop a steep rocky hill. A great town sprawled below. So this is actually up on a hill. And the town walls are an outer wall that girds the town's lower class quarters, while a second wall wards the inner city, home to great markets, traders' districts, courts of law, and public institutions of learning. And we're happy that there are good markets and traders, because this is going to be our chance to gear up before we go to Rycroft. And also, Loblo, our hunter, is looking to get a hound. He wants to have a hound companion. And another thing that I'm thinking would be good to do is to get a mule, and a mule would help us a lot with being able to carry more items, and we'd love to be able to carry as many items as we can out from Rycroft. So I think getting a mule will be very important for us. So Brackenwold is the seat of the duchy, and it's the capital of the Duchy of Brackenwold, and the Duke of Brackenwold, his family, and the court dwell within the castle. It is also the seat of the bishop. The Bishop of Brackenwold also dwells within the castle beside the seminary of 100 martyrs, where priests of the Plurtine Church are trained. So we've got a lot of different things going on in this city, and you can also look at a separate page that's just for the castle. So here we see the castle and the inner city, located 4 miles from the eaves of Dolmenwood. So it's really not that far from the entrance into Dolmenwood. And the castle and keep of the Dukes of Brackenwold sit proudly atop a tall hill, with the city stretched at their feet. While the name Castle Brackenwold properly refers only to the castle itself, the surrounding city is commonly included in the designation. So maybe the city, you could just call the city Brackenwold, I suppose. There's 8,700 inhabitants in the city. Makes it pretty large. I don't know if it's the largest one in the Dolmenwood region, but it's certainly up there. It might be. As is the way in all large settlements, folk of all kinds live in Castle Brackenwold. The total population is just under 9,000 souls, principally humans native to the city, but with a sizable number of immigrants from elsewhere in the duchy and beyond. There's approximately 1,000 people dwelling within the walled inner city area. And of course, the Duke of Brackenwold himself rules over the castle. And Castle Brackenwold is the seat of the Plurtine Church in the Dolmenwood region. And it's the site of the great Cathedral of St. Cygnus. Even in the bustling metropolis, however, seemingly a world apart from the rustic ways of Dolmenwood, remnants of ancient Gray worship can be spotted. So there's also some other possible religions going on in the area. And they've got their own rumors table, which hopefully we'll hear some rumors. I'm sure we're going to stay at least one night in an inn here and maybe listen for some rumors. So as we come into the area, we see the outer city, and it's a sprawling region of teetering abodes, twisting alleys, and seedy taverns contained within the city's outer wall. The outer city is home to the everyday folk of Castle Brackenwold, laborers, common craftspeople, thieves, and beggars. And the map opposite focuses on the inner city and only depicts the innermost regions of the outer city. So I wonder if we have a second map for the outer city? I'm guessing probably not, but of course all of the really important things are going to be going on in the inner city, so that's what most of the information focuses on. And the inner city is the commercial hub where the primary markets, traders, districts, courts of law, and public institutions of learning are found. The inner city is ringed with a second inner wall, and the map opposite shows the inner city in its entirety. Okay, so there's certainly a lot to unpack there, and a lot of things that we can explore and get into. And even though we may not get into very many of them right now. We definitely want to check out the markets. We want to look at getting a mule and a hound and maybe see what other random things they might have. And then, of course, we'll look for some lodging for the night, and possibly we can ask some people around the town or in the inn where we stay. Maybe we can ask for some information about Rycroft if anyone knows, because we are at least a little bit closer to where Rycroft is, being in this location, because Rycroft is just a few hexes over that way. So it would be a good thing to ask around in town if maybe we can get some more information about Rycroft from the people here after we do some shopping and all those things. So we will do that next time, and thank you very much for joining me, and take care.